Hey, this is Mo Lunsford at Union Grove Lumber Studios.
And this is the Shed Geek. We want to welcome you to today's episode.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek podcast on this Thursday afternoon in March. And excited about today's episode, really hoping that we can engage in some high-level conversation that's super beneficial to all you listeners out there that take the time out of your day to enjoy the Shed Geek podcast. We really hope that we're bringing you content that's valuable, useful, helpful, educational, and entertaining, if nothing else. So, Rami, do you care to introduce yourself, who you are, and just a little bit about what you do, maybe in the shed industry, so people are a little more familiar with you if they don't know you already?
Yeah, sure. My name is Rami. I've been in this shed industry for, oh goodness, right at the 14-year mark now. Wow. I've done shed sales, and I've also worked retail, but I've also worked on the manufacturing side, on the steel side of things. So, but yeah, it's kind of sunk my teeth into everything early on, and just kind of, I know we were talking about it before, whatever the healthy version of obsessive is, just right under that is where I am. I really enjoy the industry. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, glad to have you on here, and kind of how we connected. I mean, you're in North Carolina. I've been out there so many times. Going to be coming back out, fairly soon. But one of the things that was kind of exciting is, we host the Shed Sales Professionals page. We were given that page whenever it was at about 500 or so followers. We've moved it up to, I think it's got to maybe 2,500 or so people on there now. And what we've tried to do, with the help of Gavin Morley, he helps kind of moderate the page. We tried to, get a lot of the stuff kicked off of there that was people trying to sell sheds on there. Because as you know, people see sheds and they're just like, oh, another place to throw on marketplace without sort of reading the rules of the private group. But the purpose of that group, just to be clear, and it states it in the whenever you sign up to be in there, is, the description of it is, this is a page dedicated to shed sellers, to help shed sellers through shared experiences, mutual conversation. That doesn't mean that it doesn't get a little what's the word I'm looking for? That doesn't mean that it doesn't get a little chippy every now and then or something like that. But we try to keep
creative.
Creative. I like that. Yeah. So we try to keep some of that to small as we can, or as healthy as we can. But that's, you kind of connected. Like, I've been putting some content out there recently that is really more thought-provoking than it is opinion. It's just like asking questions. And you impressed me, because you went through and you answered all 10 of these questions in depth. And I really appreciated that, because it was like, hey, this is somebody who cares enough to really think this through.
So it's funny. I did not realize who I was responding to. I was literally, somebody asked a question, or really a set of questions. So I just wrote this dissertation.
Yeah. Well, it was good. It was good.
Yeah. So I was glad that we were able to connect through that. But yeah, there's a lot of learning to do in every role in this industry. So it's always fun when you have somebody that's trying to kind of establish themselves and figure some things out. They have questions, and just being able to kind of spitball back and forth I always love it. So it's always fun to talk shop. My wife doesn't always appreciate it, but I do.
I'll tell you what, when you're a shed geek yourself, 14 years, and like you said, just this line shy of obsessive, it just kind of gets in your blood. I believe, Rami, to me, like anything you do, you want to do it with zeal, and you want to do it as the best of your ability. So it wouldn't matter. I think about that as I kind of think about, Simon Sinek's Find Your Why, where he talks about that in his book. And he says, Apple just happened to be making computers. If they were making bicycles, they would have the same philosophy to be the best bicycle maker out there, right? And I think that's the way we should approach anything career wise. At least my opinion is that we should. Why would I not want to have access to as many resources as I can and learn as much as I possibly can? Um, so I mean, that's kind of that's a little bit of the nature of the podcast and why it began. I was just so
Yeah,
interested in other people
I
that I was
know.
like, let's talk. And then once we talked, I was like, hey, let's record this and
Yeah.
put it out there to other people.
Let's immortalize it. Yeah.
Digital Shed Builder is an online shed configurator that strives to provide incredible visual quality, fantastic customer service, and an amazingly low price point, making it a perfect fit for any shed dealer looking to increase their online sales. Digital Shed Builder is simple to use, taking less than 5 minutes to integrate on your site. The Get a Quote feature streamlines your sales process, showing you exactly what your potential customers need. They offer a highly customizable experience that accurately represents your brand and unique shed offerings, working with you directly to set up everything you need in a configurator. With no extra startup cost, no lengthy contracts or commitments, and no hidden fees, Digital Shed Builder has been created with quality, simplicity, and affordability in mind.
Yeah, no, we on the East Coast, and by the East Coast, I mean in Burlington, we call it shed heads. Like we're just shed geeks, shed heads, all the same, all the same thing. But yeah, it's a fascinating industry, and it's always fun to just unpack more because it's just there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to explore. There's always a new angle. There's always a new product. There's always something new, financing. I mean, just anything. And so, I mean, as soon as ask my supervisors, who will be listening, by the way, they will all tell you that I always have like 500 questions because I mean, and that's the whole key to this industry is learning to ask as many questions as you can and not just understand the what, but understand the why. Because once you answer that why for yourself, then you never have to ask that question again. And that's something I learned. My granddad actually taught me that one. But learning that why really goes a long way because you're just piecing together your foundation. And just as I went, I really started asking about, especially like on the carport side, on the steel structures, I wanted to know. And so I just went through and hey, why is the rule this way? Why does this happen? And then it just kind of accumulated and snowballed, and here we are.
Yeah, sometimes you start digging into why and you discover that there's just not a lot of substance sometimes to the why, and a lot of the answers to why sometimes ends up being because we've always done it that way.
That is my least favorite answer, and I refuse to accept it.
Yeah, it just seems like
an answer for this.
Well, just because it's always been done this way doesn't mean it's always been done the right way.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that we don't pay homage though to what got us
Absolutely.
there. That's important too. But tell me a little bit about your journey. You started 14 years ago. It sounds like you've done some work in the steel side, but give us a little backstory on who Rami is, or how did you wake up one day and say, "That's it, I want to sell sheds"? That's how it happened.
So I did not grow up saying I was going to be a shed salesman, but I got a call from a guy from church, and I was living in Georgia at the time. I went to, probably haven't heard of it, but Emmanuel College in Franklin Springs, Georgia. And I had just graduated and was trying to find my place in the world, and it was not happening. And I got a phone call one day from a guy from church back home, because I'm from Burlington, and he was starting this shed industry. And I was like, I don't know anything about anything, but let's do it. And I remember getting started, and one of the first questions I asked is, I need a spec sheet. Like, I want to know, like, I don't know anything about construction. I don't know anything about sheds. I don't know anything about anything. I need a spec sheet. And sure enough, they actually had one, which is interesting because not many manufacturers did at the time. And it was, I mean, down to the screw, they had stuff. And I would go through and I would study it, and I would ask questions like, okay, what's a stud? I literally did not know. And so, I was, low mid 20s at the time. And so I started learning. And then about, 6 months, 8 months into it, we brought in a manufacturer for steel, who's been at buildings at the time. And they started doing like the carports. Well, something about it clicked, and I really started just studying on that. That was my next thing. And so it got to where they would call me and say, hey, can you train this person? Well, yeah, sure, I can train them. Then it was another person. And then all of a sudden it was, hey, do you want to, be the sales manager? And at the time I was a little too green. They will attest to this. Like, I made a lot of mistakes and was not the best at it, but I learned so much in that time frame. And then I took about a year break, about 5 years in. And then after that break, I went and worked for one of the manufacturers. I was a business development manager. So I would go around as a representative for the company and set up new business, new dealers and whatnot. And they would call me and ask me questions. So again, I was able to learn more and understand the why, and then communicate that to my sales team. And at the time, I think I had around 80 to 100 like individual dealers, not individual companies, but like physical locations that I had to check in with. And somewhere in that neighborhood, it was a ton of fun. I learned a lot. It was an absolutely great company, had good benefits. I mean, the whole 9 yards. But after a while, that what do they call it? Windshield time. Is that what it's called? Yeah. I was done. So I stepped down from that. And a couple of months later, I transitioned back over to the retail side, same company, Hometown Sheds. And I've been there since I've been back there since 2021. So with this company collectively, it's been 9 years.
Hello, shed sellers. Did you catch the latest Real Work Labs interview with George Converse? If not, don't miss this value-packed episode. Head to Shed Geeks Podcast YouTube and search Real Work Labs. George and the Real Work Labs crew are riding the wave of Google's latest updates, taking your digital presence to the next level. We're tech artisans crafting your neighborhood brand voice for shed sellers like you to stand out, gain trust, and get found online. Our software will easily capture your work snapshots, videos, weave your craft's story, and get reviews all in one virtual experience. Our innovation goes beyond getting found for your business location, rather getting found for your work locations. Reviews intertwine with their corresponding job sites. When potential customers seek local expertise, you're the proven solution they'll find. It's high time to map your reviews and showcase your beautiful work in a meaningful way that builds trust in customers' neighborhoods. Ready for the journey? Visit shedgeek.realworklabs.com or call George today at 480-787-7575. Real Work Labs, elevating your trust, increasing your conversions, and getting you found where you work in the neighborhoods you serve, one shed at a time.
So
awesome, man.
So I've done a lot of training. I've done a lot of learning and a lot of questions, and also a lot of sales. So it's a blast for sure.
The travel time definitely is something I can relate to. It's fun. It's nice. And I love the independence, and love being able to see new places, meet new people, all of that. Since our grandbaby came along, we have slowed down a little bit, but we're ramping up for this year, getting ready, going to try to hit some places that are a little bit what I would consider non-traditional places that come to
Yep.
mind whenever I think of sheds. Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. There might be more presence there than I recognize, but I just assume based on some of the rural areas and the big spaces there that. But we want to get around to meet as many people if they have
Yep.
product services or if they sell products, manufacture, haul, build, whatever it is, sell whatever it is they do in those areas. We're putting a kind of a casting call out there that if we can
Oh
stop
yeah.
by and see you and meet you, we'd love to do an interview with you. That'd be great. But moving on, you're definitely in that, you know, um, the state that is as much known for steel structures as just about anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know this, but this is Thursday. So on Monday, the 3rd, we just launched the Steel Kings podcast hosted by
Oh,
Shed
nice.
Geek. So we actually have some guys out of Ohio who
Mm-hmm.
are bringing you content every Monday morning, every Monday morning, just specific to the steel industry and kind of how those overlap. And your story and mine kind of are similar in that like we've worked with or in or around the steel industry some, and also in the shed industry, and they're
Mm-hmm.
almost like cousins, if you
Yeah,
will.
they're very complimentary. So fun fact, I would not set up a new dealer when I was doing working on the manufacturing side unless they sold sheds because it's a commitment. And I needed people that were building minded. I don't mind if they sell all their products. Obviously, that was not an issue. What I minded was that they're not going to be distracted trying to sell a house or trying to sell a car, where it's like they're already distracted, and then here it is where they're trying. Like I've got a customer that needs help. I need them to be able to have that attention that they need, and so they're already outdoor product minded. They already have rent to own set up. They already have financing set up. They already have that whole venue established. All we need to do is put up a couple demos and they're cruising. I always recommend if you're selling sheds, sell carports, like always, because I promise you will be selling double whatever you made if you're just focusing on sheds. And it's not always just a volume, like a sales volume thing. You're looking at doubling commissions as well because you're selling two types. You're able to meet two different customers' needs instead of one. And it goes a long way.
Hello, today we're going to take a look at iFab's component saw system. So we're utilizing a DeWalt chop saw. We've put it on sliders, easily to adjust. We've automated it using pneumatics so that we can run all these saws together using one actuator. We can either actuate with a two-hand safety control here or a foot pedal. The two-hand safety control comes with board clamps here so to clamp in your board so you're totally hands-free. We've got digital readout up here to find your angle as well as your length. So we have a 90-degree saw here for your super long angle cuts. We've also got a conveyor on this system to take away your cutoffs. This system is completely modular. We can add as many saws as you need. The rails can be as long as you need.
For more information, visit www.ifabllc.com.
What have you found to be like the biggest differences in the shed industry and sort of that steel structure world? What are the things that stick out to you? I've got a few things that I feel like has kind of been just chipping at me the last couple of months.
Yeah. So there's a faster turnaround with shed customers. So customer comes in, they can make up their mind on a shed in one day. With a carport, same thing. Where it starts differentiating is when they're trying to do those 30 by 40s and the 40 by 60s and the big stuff where they're paying cash, they've been saving up for it, or I had a lady a couple weeks ago pulling out of her 401k, like she'd been waiting for this moment. And so it's a process. And so there's a little bit more patience involved with the steel structures. There's a lot more attention to detail, because every steel structure company has a slightly different set of engineering drawings. Interestingly, they usually have the same engineer. I haven't understood that one, but they have different rules for where you can connect to, and the spacing for things and things like that. So there's a lot more detail and a lot more scope. And so it takes a little bit longer sometimes for them to actually pull the trigger on it. There's also a lot more competition, because you're not limited to a 30-mile radius or a 50-mile radius or even a 100-mile radius. You're talking about, honestly, 500 miles sometimes radius, and it's the same price, and it's or basically the same price. So your competitor in Kentucky is the same price as your competitor in right up the street, and it's the same price as you. So it's coming down to your expertise, and it's coming down to your ability to eliminate friction that is keeping your customer from placing that order. And so it comes down to not just price point, although that is important. It's coming down to your knowledge, your ability to get information they need, and to provide a product in a timely fashion. Whereas with a shed, it's, oh yeah, we have sheds and this is what we can do. And you have, in some cases, it's several competitors, but they all have like their little niche that they're kind of trying to focus on. And so everybody kind of keeps to themselves. It is not like that with steel structures. So it's a big, big difference.
I've heard it said like the salesperson makes all the difference in the world. You can take A plus salesperson in a C minus location, and they'll outsell a plus location as a C minus salesperson. Yep. Because you can overcome the differences, right? With good sales process, good customer service, and really a dedication to your profession is what I would call it. And I think about, I don't know, people who have discussed things, about how sales professions almost kind of maybe not looked down upon, but I mean there have been like a lot of shysters in the past and things like that, that people feel like they've just been kind of taken advantage of through the sales process because things weren't disclaimed. Or
yes, there is a lot of stealing that goes on in this industry, and it frustrates me to no end, because it brands all of us with this bad impression. And you'll have actually some customers wanting to shop local because they would rather pay maybe just a little bit more than risk paying a lot less sometimes, and not know the company they're actually purchasing the building from, not knowing the reputation of that company, hoping they get all the screws put in right. I mean, it's just not saying that the online side of the industry is problematic all the time, but people are kind of tired of taking those risks. So so being upfront, being honest, and being knowledgeable on your product, checking all those boxes, it goes a really long way in this industry.
Yeah, it's been so unusual. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that I've found, the differences in the industries that kind of come to mind immediately for me is, just the fact that 100% of steel buildings are built on site. They're new construction builds built on site. This isn't an inventory piece that you can move, discount, or sell. They're basically sold off of a display model. And the more I think we focus on that and look at how that affects the shed industry, that's why I've been asking some of these questions right on the Shed Sales Professionals page. So if you're a shed entrepreneur, a shed sales professional, hauler, dealer, somebody who's involved in it, why not join the page? And by the way, yes, if you do not list that you are in the shed industry, we do not allow you in, because we try to protect the page and limit it as best we can for that reason. So that's why we ask those questions in the beginning, not to be bothersome, but to keep this group as a beneficial group to each other, and We don't need a whole bunch of outside influence coming in of people who are not involved in any way, shape, or form in the industry,
Yeah.
spamming the page. So Shed Sales Professionals is the private Facebook group. Go check it out. Ask to join. We'll be happy to let you in if you are in the shed industry. But the reason I've been asking some of these questions is because I've noticed that, Rami, that like, if you take a look at some models, like I asked the question, did a poll recently, how many of your sheds are sold that are new construction builds or to be built or whatever it is, the terminology you use, versus an inventory piece that sits on the lot. I've been really surprised at some of the data that we've been able to find to support that so many people are selling new buildings, and it's like makes me wonder. Always love to know that, because it's a good challenge to salespeople who have inventory and they say, I've got to have triple, double, quadruple the inventory to be effective.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder, right? It
Yep.
presents a good argument and an alternative point of view. What's your experience?
There are different approaches to it. It is great having inventory because someone can come in, say, I want that one, and let's go. My personal experience with Facebook Marketplace, now there are people that say their experience is different, so I'll clarify there. But my experience is when I post something on Facebook Marketplace, it could be a stock photo and clearly a stock photo, and someone will still say, I want this one right now. And it's just like, well, you got to go through the whole spiel of, well, we can get it in, 2 to 4 weeks or 4 to 6, whatever it is. And, and so it's this whole thing, and they're needing something yesterday. To which I kind of feel like saying, if you needed it yesterday, you should have bought it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But again, people will be people and customers will be customers. But having
people are going to people is the way I heard somebody say. People are going to people.
They will. They are creatures of habit too. So in saying that, there are a lot of benefits to having inventory. On the flip side of things, it alleviates pressure from your manufacturers when they're not having to stock every building with 50 buildings, which used to be the model. And as a retailer, sometimes people don't do this math, but if you're on consignment, for example, 50 times, if your average building is $6,000, that's a lot of inventory, and times that by, you have 50 dealers, and it's just like, who has this kind of money in this economy anymore? So we as in retailers and manufacturers had to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit. So because inventory is technically going to be down. Now, the flip side of that is, now there's more opportunity for more customization. Let's have fun with it. And so, and then insert idea room stage right kind of thing, where, we can build it right here on the screen. We can do it together. Here's exactly what it's going to look like, or exactly what it should look like if idea room would fix the color schemes. But no, it's that idea room in particular, which is the shed builder, really changed the dynamics of both shed building and carport, especially on the carport side, but also on the shed side, to the point where it was almost timed perfectly, because I think idea room started doing their thing back in like 2018, 19, somewhere in that neighborhood, and then the economy kind of jumped everything up. So we had the ability to show a customer exactly what they're looking for at the same time, where that manufacturers couldn't get out consignment inventory anymore. And so it was really good timing on our part. But either way, it's if you're stuck in a situation where you can't get inventory, use it to your advantage. If you can get inventory, great. You know what the advantage is. If you can't, then find a way to use it to your benefit. Oh, we're fully customizable. Everything is, spec'd out exactly how you want it. And just, you can do that. And if you're struggling with the inventory side of things and you have a big lot, for example, that's another reason to get carports. Back to that, where you can get a couple demos out there and look full again. Now they're not going to set you up with 5, 6, 7 demos necessarily, but even 2 or 3 sometimes, or 4. Really, I mean, they take up good space, they look good, they look clean, you make some money off of it, and your customers are attracted to yet another thing. Goes a long way, and it really offsets your problem with some of your inventory struggles.
Running a business can feel like trying to balance a dozen plates, except none of them are actually plates, and one of them's on fire. Enter Newfound Solutions. Think of us like your business BFF, always ready to lend a hand with whatever you need. Have you always wanted to start your own rent-to-own company but don't quite know where to start? RTO Partners is here to help. Overwhelmed by all the moving pieces in running your own rent-to-own program? RTO Smart is a software that encompasses everything you need on one platform. Or leave the rent-to-own up to us and focus on what's more important to you. Newfound Rentals has you covered with traditional rent-to-own options for your customers. Shed Connect understands the complexity of the digital marketplace. We take the hassle out of online sales. And unlock the full potential of your brand with Co-Creative. We'll make your brand look so good, your audience won't be able to look away. Newfound Solutions. 5 powerful sub-brands helping you succeed across every aspect of your business. Visit newfoundsolutions.com today and let us do the balancing so you don't have to.
The 3D configurators definitely changed the mindset for people to be able to see, when you're trying to write things down or show them something or explain it, it just makes such a difference. And we have found, even our marketing segment that we promote at Shed Geek, we have found it to be so dynamic for our customers to have the utilization of a 3D configurator, because there's just so much that you can do with it, especially as we move into a retail world where, oh gosh, it's not even just 3D configurators anymore. It's AI, right? Mm-hmm. It's there's going to be so many different changes coming up in the industry over the next several years, and you're going to see that technology, and some are going to struggle and some are going to thrive. And it's just a matter of making sure to get your message out there, building a good product, releasing it, providing good customer service. And it's the same things that we all have to do, if you own a business. I had a question for you, and I wanted to maybe try to get into some of the questions that me and you had some conversation about on there. But I got one question before I forget that I wrote down, and I wanted to ask, as a 14-year veteran, what is your best piece of advice for a shed dealer, maybe even a new shed dealer?
Know the product. Like the first thing I said when I was kind of explaining some things, and that know your product and know your competitor's product. And honestly, know your competitor. You never know when that one random piece of information that you're, even if you have the exact same brand, even if as your competitor, even if you have the exact same brand, it's the exact same buildings, if you know your product and you present your product, you're going to get that sale, because you're sounding more knowledgeable, and you're providing them with information. Your customer may not even recognize that it's the same exact shed, or steel building or whatever, but because you talk about your 3/4 inch flooring or your 4x6 runners or whatever it is that you're doing, just mentioning those things goes a mile with these customers. So just knowing the product backwards and forwards, upside downs, and you can't beat it. And it is an invaluable piece in any industry, but especially this one.
So I got to know people, honestly, Rami. I would go and sit down with the competitors and try and understand them, and try and understand their product, and be friendly towards them, and also do my best to know what sets me apart. Why am I different? What is the reason someone might, I'm giving a sales presentation tomorrow in Indiana. And, that's one of the things that I've been asked to speak on is like, why would a customer purchase from the customer's perspective? Why would they purchase one of our storage buildings versus anybody else's? I mean, there's so many available, but what would set us apart? Why would be different? Why would the customer choose us? So I've really been digging into this on the sales presentation. I can't wait to speak at their dealer event. And it's just exciting, right? It's exciting because I took that as a literal challenge for me as I sewed sheds anyway. It was like, how do I know people, know processes? Where can I learn from others? I mean, I've not just, done this so that I can be a megaphone to tell people how or why to do things. I've been a great listener, right? Podcasting seems to be a talker, but it's because I've listened so much. I've really been a student of other people. And, I was taught that if you want to know how the CEO got to where he is, you take him to lunch. Instead of being like, well, I'll never make it there, or he got it unfair, or, like I was always like, go to them and be like, hey, what are success leaves clues. That's what Gary Vaynerchuk says, success leaves clues. So I think that they appreciate it. You go and take them to lunch and say, hey, I want to be better. I want to learn more. I want to do more. And you've already got the keys to the success. So how can you help me get there? And I think that goes a long way if you'll just get your ego out of your own way.
It does.
Yeah. So great advice.
It does.
Product knowledge. I can remember Andrew Woods. I've talked about him several times on the podcast, and God rest his soul. He was a LP rep, and the company that we used, sold sheds for, used LP as a product. And I never will forget him showing up his first 2 weeks on the job. And I was so already knowledgeable about certain things that I was like, I couldn't wait for you to get here. I got all kinds of questions to ask you. And I asked that dude, a million questions. And he wrote down, to his credit, he wrote down every one of them. And he said, I don't know the answer now, but I'll get back to you on that. And he did. He followed up with me on every bit of it. So
and that's kind of another point to not transition, but to slingshot from my other one was, if you don't know, then don't guess.
Yes, absolutely.
Guessing is the worst thing. One thing I'd like to sleep. It's just I don't like to sleep as in all the time, but like when it's ready, when it's time to sleep, I need to sleep, and I don't like stressing about work. So if I've promised something and I've overpromised something, I'm going to be stressed out all the time. So rather than guessing, I either have studied to where I already know the answer and I'm confident about it, or I say, I don't know. And there is something just beautiful about being able to say that. And it's also building a little bit of a rapport with your customer as well in certain scenarios, because they don't think you're the yes man.
You're not a robot. You know what I mean? Like, you're not a robot who just always has the answer. I have a little bit different philosophy. I had a boss one time that said their philosophy, and it works for them, and that's great. And I encourage them to keep using, what they feel like is beneficial for them. But they said the answer is always yes until the answer is no. And I was like, ooh, I don't know if that sits well with me. You know what I mean? Like, just tell them yes, because you don't want to create any problems, controversy. You don't want to stand for nothing. You don't want to disrupt the sale or anything. You just say yes until you have to tell them no. And I've kind of taken a little different approach. I'm not chastising that approach. It's their approach. It's their prerogative, but for me, I've always been like, I don't know. I'm maybe a little bit more of a, almost a cautious, almost a no until it's a yes, to be honest with you. And, I have normalized in my life and encouraged others to, whenever you're caught with a question that you feel obligated to answer, and you don't know the answer or don't feel confident, that it is not a negative thing to say, I'm not sure about that, but can I get back with you on that? I've normalized that in my life, even outside the shed industry. Whenever someone asks me something, I used to feel like I had to have an opinion, or else I didn't look educated on it, or I looked, I'd lose this opportunity because, I don't seem like I'm in the know. But I have I have normalized saying not only no to particular opportunities sometimes, but I've also normalized just saying, I don't know the best answer there,
Yeah.
but I know someone who might be able to. Can I get back with you on that? And
Yes.
people accept that. They're okay with that.
They do. And you will be surprised at how well no is received, because sometimes they don't, sometimes they just need to eliminate an option. And like my boss, my immediate boss brought in a great phrase that I just have anchored to. It's customers suffer from paralysis from analysis, where they just have so many options that they vapor lock. And so introducing a no to the equation starts neutralizing some of those fears or some of those concerns or some of the anxiety that they have. So no is very, very powerful in a sales industry. Now it can be used for good or bad, so don't mishear that. But it is a very, very useful tool, and it can save you a lot of time. For example, if you're pretty sure that the steel structure company isn't going to put a lean-to on the side of someone's house, like as in, but you're like, well, let me check. Now you already know what the answer is going to be. You already know that there's no one, but now you're wasting 20 or 30 minutes of your life, which is money in a commission world, trying to find maybe somebody where you could have just gone to the next thing with this customer just by saying no.
Hello, shed builders. I'd like to grab your attention for just a moment. As we look ahead to 2025, one thing is clear. Customers will have higher expectations than ever before. Shed consumers have an unprecedented access to information. To stay competitive, you need to create sheds that are not only high in quality, but also rich in innovation. You might recall my friend Dan Rami, one of my early podcast guests, who introduced Solar Blaster fans, specifically the Solar Roof Blaster. Dan has been busy handling orders, and he's eager to speak directly to shed builders about his groundbreaking products. What stands out to me about Dan's products designed specifically for sheds, like the Solar Roof Blaster and the Solar Light Blaster, is how they enhance the shed owner's experience. With the focus on quality, it's time to start thinking about adding features and benefits for the end user. Here at Shed Geek, we wholeheartedly recommend Solar Blaster as the solution. My favorite thing about the entire line of products? The support you'll receive from Dan. Not only is he incredibly knowledgeable about these products, but he's also one of the most customer-focused individuals I know. He truly stands behind both his product and his service. We're searching for companies ready to elevate customer satisfaction to the next level. To learn more, just visit solarblasterfans.com and fill out some basic information for a callback, or connect directly at 480-747-7097. You can also check out the Shed Geek newsletter, where a click on the Solar Blaster ad will guide you to a form for more information and some cool videos showcasing the products. Let's power up innovation and elevate customer experiences together.
Great point. Man, I love the conversation. You're such an easy conversationalist too. And I know you're going to find this hard to imagine that we've been speaking for 40 minutes already. But that's what I tell people in the industry. I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised at how harmless this is. Just hop on here and do a podcast for those who would have really good stories, offer really good advice, but are just a little bit timid. It's always recorded. It's never live, so we can edit anything out. But it's very simple just to get on here and have a conversation, and it's very beneficial, especially. I wish I could share with you guys all the text, emails, or messages that we've gotten that said, "Hey, I really enjoyed that episode," or "I want to reach out to that person," or that person probably felt like they didn't have much to offer, and it ended up being like the most listened to podcast ever, and they're like, "Well, I didn't really think I had that much," and all of a sudden they are just dynamic in terms of content.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of a 2-part series. Be sure to tune in next week for more engaging conversation here at the Shed Geek Podcast.
Hey, this is Mo Lunsford in sunny Union Grove, North Carolina, and we want to say thank you to all the guests and listeners.